John Street, and you're watching PAX 8 Live.
Welcome to Academy Live. Welcome to Technically Unraveled.
Welcome to the game on PAX 8 Live.
This is James Davis from the PAX 8 Academy again. Academy Live is really designed to empower MSPs to learn and grow the way that best suits them.
How to grow and mature your business on demand, instructor-led, peer and coaching.
We talk about all the cybersecurity shenanigans you need to be aware of.
That's when you really need to know, are they security conscious?
Technology businesses and
Inspiring our audience to work on their business.
Understanding what made businesses tick.
I'm really excited to talk about this course.
How can we make an MSP more efficient and make them better at serving their clients?
How do we not screw it up? We do the basics well.
PAX 8 is laser focused on helping our partners grow, get efficient, and reduce risk.
Ask yourself, what are you going to do differently tomorrow to grow your business?
We look forward to seeing you next time. We'll see you then.
Are you guys excited? Are you ready to start beyond?
Who's coming to Beyond 24? You want a little more?
I think folks are really excited about what they can do with their customers and how they can help grow their business.
It's a massive opportunity for all of you.
Cheers to the channel community.
What's up, everyone? Happy Friday, and welcome to the game on PAX 8 Live, the show where we talk about all the cybersecurity shenanigans you need to be aware of. We have a great show today. Travis Woods is going to join us later. We're going to talk about operational security or OPSEC considerations that you should have while traveling, and probably rehash some of the basic baby steps because we feel like it needs it. But before we do that, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, interact with us in the chat, all of that jazz, and don't forget to sign up for PAX 8 Beyond. And let's jump straight into the news.
Potentially crippling cyber attacks that could disrupt water and electricity. That's conjecture, but it's there, right?
Yeah.
U.S. intelligence chief sounded the alarm about a threat at Congress last week, saying Beijing could use the hackers to disrupt. Okay. No worries. That's on me. I probably messed something up. Okay, so the nearly 50-page report comes out, and I won't belabor the point, but we did see Jen Easterly speak to Congress right before this report happened, and then right after we come out with this report that very much follows. So a couple things that come out to me is, number one, we have this event, this story, this discussion, and Dom, you and I can tackle that. The other piece that I like, that I've noticed as a side tangent, is we saw such a rapid and congruent response from CISA, from joint cyber advisories, from Congress and congressional appointment, like talking, all happening at the same exact time. This is the second or third times we've had this. Look back to March with the Carnegie Mellon speech from Jen, right? Where she stands up on stage, talks about this at Carnegie Mellon, and then within 2 days, you have the National Cybersecurity Policy release. You have the Biden White House administration document on that. The reason I bring all that up is it's a very interesting scenario that we're seeing this response. And I just sat with an FBI officer yesterday talking about how 5 years ago, 2019, they were stupid. And he used those words. And he said, we didn't have a plan. We didn't understand the way we can best help. We didn't have a definition. We didn't share. So what's interesting is the FBI, NSA, cybersecurity, CISA, among other U.S. agency producers report, along with agencies from Australia, ACSC, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom, all of the Five Eyes communities, right? We're talking about everybody in the Five Eyes community is part of this. CNN obtained a non-public version of the report, and sources familiar say the agency are prepping to publish a version this week, which did come out. Canada's cybersecurity agency assessed that the direct threat of Canada's critical infrastructure from Chinese is likely lower than that of U.S. infrastructure, but that Canada would still be affected by a disruption. What's interesting, Dom, let's cut to this and just chat about it for a sec. I feel like this is like what for cybersecurity professionals have gone, duh, for a long time. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I don't think it's just professionals. Like, we've had these conversations about critical infrastructure and the vulnerability and the exposure to nation state actors for intelligence and or military purposes. There's been movies about the possibility.
Right.
Like,
we've made conjecture of it since MI2, right? Of something. So
right. Yeah. It's been a thing forever. 5 years dwell time is a little crazy, but it also tracks, right? It's a really interesting reference to this concept is the movie Snowden. And he talks about how, a nation state might want to embed in critical infrastructure to be able to turn off the lights should the need arise, right? So resiliency around this area is critical, and I think there's probably more to be done in the realm of auditing, for lack of a better term, and threat hunting on a really deep level on a regular basis.
Yeah. And I think as you think about it, it's not like we're not doing the same thing. And what I mean by that is the only thing that's changed in espionage in the last 200 years is the fact that I don't even have to be there now. I don't have to convince someone to be there. I don't have to turn someone. I can simply just get in and sit and look and watch. And when you really try to put that in perspective, think about what 5 years is like. Anybody watching this right now, I want you to think back to 5 years in your career. Can you tell me how much has changed in your world, in your business, in your company, in you in 5 years? And think about now having constant position there, having intelligence gathering capabilities, having impact gathering capabilities, being able to subtly influence things in the world. I think we should stop being so ignorant as to this being what the real definition of preparedness, cyber resiliency, and overarchingly, espionage and nation state plays between the two. I do love that we are seeing this unified response about it and speaking towards it of saying, hey, this is our joint response on what the capabilities are. Here's the things we're seeing. Here's what we know. Here's what's declassified or unclassed that we can share. I can't even imagine what the class reports look like in that way, Dom, of what those classified intelligence.
They're long, I'll bet you.
Yeah, I would wager as well. Anyways, MI2, I guess not. Mission Impossible 2. Does that really fall in our acronym counter? I don't think so from the audience out there. Like, that's not fair. And Henry, it's great seeing you on here, buddy. Thanks for joining us. I see you're in the chat. We appreciate it. So, all right, let's go on to the next article. I mean, I this could be like hours of conversation about this challenge. Next, I think this is maybe the same article. Did I mess up and get that to y'all? I apologize. Yeah, so this is kind of extension of the same. It's another article talking about it, and that's on me, y'all.
You know what? This is the JCSA, the Joint Cybersecurity.
Yeah, the Joint Cybersecurity Advisory aspect of it that goes hand in hand. Yeah, go ahead with it, Dom.
But super valuable resource, though, since they're both here. It's worth calling out. You can go to CISA.gov and get these things. Probably not so much in the respect of this attack. It is cool to read if you want to nerd out about it, but in other widespread attacks, there's IOCs and TTPs and those kind of things that are available to you. Perhaps not in a format that SMB can ingest, but there is still data there. So
I do want to call out Volt Typhoon, also known as Vanguard Panda, also known as Bronze Silhouette, also known as Devo 391, also known as UNC 3236, also known as Volt Zeiss and Insidious Taurus. I do think we need to get a handle on the names of our threat groups. And I want to talk about that.
This is a perfect opportunity maybe
to pivot. Yeah, that's the thing. For anybody that doesn't know how these names originate, each of these individual players are tracking some unknown group they make up a name for, right? So I've got this name. I'm going to call them Typhoon Panda, and I'm going to call this one Little Bear, and I'm going to call but then you have other groups tracking, and eventually they share that intelligence and come together to understand that there is like all of these are one entity being tracked by multiple people. One of the things that did stand out in this attack was a constant and continuous use of LOTL, or living off of the land, right? And so we are seeing more and more. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, that means what my grandfather always used to say: "Don't jump me in a rock pile, because I'll sure as hell pick up a rock." Right, and it's this
Right.
understanding of saying threat actors are starting to, and especially well positioned threat actors are using the TTPs, or tactics, techniques, and practices that tie back to using stuff that's already laying in that rock pile. I'm going to use cert util to load this. I'm going to use this piece to actually dump credentials. I'm going to do these other pieces. And so what's interesting is these attacks weren't unsophisticated, right? They were harder to catch in that nature, in that way. So yeah, but I do love that we
PowerShell's
have
one of the best
go
if
ahead.
you want to really dig
Yeah.
in and experiment with LOTL attacks. Windows, it's PowerShell all the time. It's
And also, if you want to do some research on your own, go look at LOL bins, living off the land binaries, and then the other one is GTFO bins for the Windows side. So LOL bins would be more Linux, and then GTFO, I won't say what that acronym means so we don't get in trouble, but it means to get out, if you will, in some practical means. Yeah, so GTFO bins is also a great place to go and get some research on that and start to understand your adversary to this point. So anyways, sidetrack. All right, so the last one I want to start it off, Dom. Is this going to be the end of the world as we know it? Is it all over? Are we phoning
thought it was
home and
gonna
wrapping
be
it
for
up?
a second. Yeah,
Oh, we
it was,
tackle
it
this
was
one,
a close one. 3 million smart toothbrushes were not used in a DDoS attack after all, but it could happen. So if you don't know, this story broke out and was very quickly
Yesterday or 2
debunked,
days
but
ago.
it broke out, yesterday. So it sounds more like science fiction than reality. A Swiss newspaper, I can't pronounce that, reported that approximately 3 million smart toothbrushes were hijacked by hackers to launch a distributed denial service, a DDoS attack. These innocuous bathroom gadgets transformed into soldiers in a botnet army allegedly knocked out a Swiss company for several hours, costing millions of euros in damages. We can leave it there.
Yeah.
It turns
Let's
out that
jump.
was false. It was a hypothetical conversation out of Fortinet Labs. It was not something that occurred. Both Matt and I were like, this could happen. This could
This could happen.
absolutely
100%. I
be a
believed it. Hook,
thing.
line, and sinker. I mean, yeah. Here's what's good about this, Dom. Let's talk about some of the core components since we have this opportunity. So the first thing is IoT, or Internet of Things, which really means all these smart devices you're buying, all the things that are out there, that's your agentless capability. Like, I don't have any ability to put an agent on it and protect it. It's just some device, right, that's connected to my network.
Right.
And what is a DDoS? Well, a DDoS stands for Distributed Denial of Service Attack, or DDoS, Distributed Denial of Service. The other part to think about from this to break down is you have distributed denial of service, and then you have this capability of decentralizing that denial of service and doing what's called reflexive denial of services, where I go out as the toothbrush. I'm going to be my toothbrush, Matt, and I reach out and say, hey, I'm actually this site I want to attack. So my name's not Toothbrush. My name now is, this is my toothbrush. It's a great toothbrush. But I am now this site I want to attack. And so it sends out and says, hey, can you send me this very large DNS request response back to me? And it pretends to be not Toothbrush, but victim, right? And then the other internet players respond back to that victim as if they had made this request. That's just one type of DDoS. But the point being, if you have millions of these toothbrushes doing it, then you now get into a point where you can overwhelm a server, you can overwhelm response capabilities. You've seen reflexive attacks in the terabits, right? We've seen Microsoft track several terabit plus DDoS attacks like that. And nobody's ever had something that efficacious. Nobody's ever had something that distributed, that large, that wide. And could you imagine hacking Ring and making every Ring camera and device do something like that? What about all of that type of extensibility and how disparate those things are now, right, on different ISPs, internet service providers, different geolocations, like everywhere there's a dang toothbrush, like people brush their teeth. I don't know if you know that about things, but so anyways, the joke and the information here was a cool thought experiment, but it does very much highlight how poorly we're set up to deal with that. And I don't think it'd be all that hard to compromise Philips. Like, if I'm really candid,
no,
I don't
really
think it'd be all that hard to get access to this source code. It's not super protected on the toothbrush source code.
But the other thing we surfaced was, why the hell would one have a Wi-Fi connected toothbrush? Like, what is?
I brushed for 1 minute and 42 seconds, not 1 minute 58 seconds, and the pressure was under 2 psi per tooth. Like, that's
not being
bro, if
consistent.
you can't get that right, are you even living?
Yeah.
It's like Strava. If the brush didn't get in data,
although
it didn't happen.
It would be a good tool to like call your kids out, I guess. To get the weekly toothbrush effectiveness report, review it
And
with
mine's
them.
just your
But
breath stinks. You're obviously not brushing your teeth, but you could get way
right,
more scientific about it.
you
To your
could,
point, if we were
you
internet
could.
connected. I think there's a business model
Uh,
here. We could get into bidets that are smart bidets. There's so many cool things we could apply in this same vein. But I'd rather us not. So
Maybe
let's go
no.
ahead and jump over. We've got a super cool guest that's going to be joining us. One of my good friends, probably one of the smarter people I get to interact with in a lot of cases, and just a fun dude. But in between, let's hear some brilliant words from Robin Harris.
Hello. We're into the new year, and there's some things that are going to be coming up pretty soon. And, just like we have to think about, we have to do our taxes every year, there are certain things we need to do for our businesses every year. And one of those things, particularly if we're trying to align with a standard like ISO 27001 or something, is we need to be reviewing our policies on an annual basis. And there's a way to organize policies where that review can be a big, fat headache. And there's a way to organize policies where the review will be less of a burden. And the trick to this is you have to invest the time in refreshing your policies and organizing them with your review cycles in mind. And if you do your policies for ISO is very interesting. They took all the policy statements kind of out of the standard. You can still see them in the guidance, but there's one policy you absolutely must have, and that is your information security policy. And your information security policy can then triage to other, let's just call them baby policies. So if you organize your policies in a way that they're stable, integrating the language that's not going to change from year to year, that's not so dependent on you change the process, now you got to go update a policy or whatever. You want to create your policies so that they are more stable. So when you do your review, the likelihood that you will actually have to make changes will decrease. But you've got to put that forethought into the design and the architecture of your policies in the first place. And that's a little bit of work. So depending on how you've established your policies, you may want to re-architecture your design for how your policies are set up and make them easily maintainable so that your annual review is not a headache. Or you just may want to do the headache and you've got a lot of things that you have to update every single year because this changed, that changed. Oh, we don't use this anymore. Oh, we do it that way. So depending on how you've done it, you're going to have a lot of work or you're going to have a little work. And coming into the holiday, we're celebrating and we're saying, I love you. This is the season, an opportunity to show your policies some love. Your policies are your foundation of what you do, and they are what allows all your players to be on the same page. I hope that you will take this opportunity to rethink how you want to do policies, how you want to treat them, what kind of reviews you want to do, who needs to be engaged, how difficult it is to get people to review things. You got to factor all of that in and then make some business decisions so that every single year you can show those policies some love.
Policies. It's not always the fun part, but it is a necessary part.
I love Paul Hodge's comment in the chat. I don't know if y'all can pull that up. But this was on mine. I'm sorry. It's a difference. If you want to put chats on that we can bring on the screen, you have to come to the Pact8 Cloud one. But he says, great story. Is there even such a product as an IPv4 connected toothbrush? No, it's even better, Paul. They're IPv6 only. Yeah, 100% addressable back to the device. Yeah. I I'm so excited about this, Dom, because you proposed this as a conversation. It was after you and Travis sat down and kind of talked about his recent travels. And Travis is the perfect person for this conversation. And he already came with a lot of really cool bullet points. And what I want us to do is
Yeah.
talk about the risk to an organization as its employees travel, work from home. All of those things are applicable, but even more so when you're going to hostile countries or places that maybe have a very different structure. And I thought Travis would be perfect for this. So let's go ahead and bring Travis Woods on, and let's go ahead and get us all three up here chatting. Travis, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, guys, thanks so much for having me on. This is a pleasure.
Yeah, you
Took
brought
us
up
too long, man.
operational. It has been too long,
I
and
know. Well, conference season is coming up, so that will change. So,
yes, we shall see each other very soon. You brought up operational security, and I think in true NIST fashion, I'm going to read the 6.7 paragraphs that define OPSEC. But no, let's talk about what we're actually talking about here. In NIST, they define it as systematic and proven processes by which potential adversaries can be denied information about capabilities, intentions, by identifying, controlling, and protecting general unclassified evidence in planning and execution of sensitive activities. But what we're really talking about is how do you protect yourself on the road? That's what, Claire made the best way of distilling this down is how do you protect yourself on the road? So Travis, introduce yourself a little bit for anybody that doesn't know you and talk about why
yeah,
this is something you have to deal with. Why is this something on your radar?
certainly. Yeah. So, I'm, of course, Travis Woods. Been in the industry for a good long time now, about 15 years. Run an MSP out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, Fort Point IT. And recently, part of a new organization that's taking place in Colombia. So that's the root of all this travel. And in going down there, it's been great. There's quite receptive to U.S. technology, and so it's nice to have a warm audience. But nonetheless, yeah, that's brought me down there a number of times over the year, and each time I go, I'm always kind of thinking about, okay, like, am I doing like what breadcrumbs am I leaving behind? Just even moving through airports, moving through office buildings or shared spaces, hotels. What's some of the information that I'm giving out without even knowing it, that could potentially compromise me, or say that I am a target or that I should be a target. So that's what really got me thinking on this, and figuring out kind of, okay, what do we do here to obfuscate ourselves? And NIST said it really well, really completely, in fact.
Of course. Yeah, very
But for
scientifically,
me,
Very scientific.
yeah, for me, let me boil it down. How do I not exist in this area? So, and that's kind of where I started.
And you brought some bullet points that what I'd love to do is in absence of audience input, let's just
Mhm.
talk through them. Let's just bring them
Yeah,
up one by one and we'll go kind of in order. Travis, you can kick us off each time. Dom, pop in
yeah.
second, and then I'll close it out. And let's just talk about these bullet points. Why do they matter? What should you be doing? And are these just basics that everybody should already be doing? Is some of the stuff that I want to tackle.
Yeah, I mean, this list that we're going to go over is by no means complete, or comprehensive, but for me, it's a baseline.
So the first thing is a thought process, right? Like, what are you actually thinking about when you're traveling? And you started down that path, right, Travis? But help me understand that. What do you need to be thinking about when you're traveling that's different than when you're sitting in your house? Help me understand that, or your office.
Yeah, so traveling, you're obviously you're in foreign territory, and so you really don't know who's around you. And so with that, your guard should be up. So, um, and all of it's real easy to think like, I'm not a target. I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
Going through the airport, just trying to get from point A to point B, and maybe grab a drink on the way. So, but to other people, like, you could, there's information that they might want from you, and you may be a key person to help them get to other bigger
I'll
targets.
give you a
Um,
thought as an example on that too, right, Travis? And I already broke my order that I just set forth, so I suck as a human. So I'll just go ahead and say that right now. But I would say if I ever was a bad mat, right? And you've
Hmm.
seen me do my Lock It Up 2023, Lock It Up 2024. If you
Yeah.
haven't looked at that on LinkedIn, go search hashtag Lock It Up 2023. But I find all these open laptops. I would definitely, Travis, pick you out as the guy I would hit. Like, I mean that as not a negative way, but like I've sat there and I've assessed this as myself. I said, self, would I attack this
It's the
person I found the
glasses.
laptop up? And yeah, it's
It's
like what's
clearly
the
the glasses.
glasses, the
You're
way
like,
you
that guy's
carry
got to be,
yourself,
yeah.
it's the nice shoes, it's the fact that you're probably a business person. Like I'm not going to attack grandma sitting there on the laptop that walks over to get a bagel, but I'm definitely going to find somebody that's walking in a suit, maybe not in the U.S. That's right. That's now a foreigner. I
Yeah.
definitely would target those people in the airplane lounge,
Right.
100%. Not saying that
Right.
for any law enforcement people with artifacts down the road. That wasn't me. But if it were bad, so my cousin coming. Dom, what are your thoughts on this first one of like, is mindset important? And we're going to bring Scott Augenbaum on later to talk about cybersecurity mindset. What should you be thinking?
Great. Yeah. Great guest.
I think your general mindset is important, not just cybersecurity, like yourself. So a great example
Sure.
is when I'm going through the airport, you put your bag in the little bucket. My hand's on that bucket until it's halfway in the X-ray machine, and then I get through quickly enough so that it's on the bucket when it's halfway out of the X-ray
Yeah.
machine,
Yeah.
right? So it's a general thought process. I also don't tend to dress up when I travel. On the very rare occasion where I know I'm getting off the plane and on the stage, I will. But typically, I've got time, so I travel real casual.
Yeah.
And then if I am needing to get work done, which is very common, by the way, at the airport, then if I'm going anywhere, it goes back in the bag. You need to be cognizant of who's behind you, right? At the your typical airport lobby with the back-to-back seats, um,
Yeah.
and it might sound paranoid, and when I say it out loud, I'm like, Jesus, this is a little bit crazy, but it's really not, right? It's
Yeah.
what's on your screen that someone can consume. How quickly can someone walk away with your device? I mean, you've been to a busy airport. If someone grabs your device and walks away, you're not going to find them.
Well, and
Hmm.
big companies have thought about this. My brother had a cool backpack from Facebook, and it was like super dope. It was from when he did some AI work with Facebook. But the
Yeah.
only way you saw as a Facebook backpack was you opened up the flap. There was this big embroidered logo inside. And I asked him, I was like, why is that? He said, because
You
too many
know,
people go, oh, cool, Facebook laptop to steal. That one.
Yeah.
Right. And
I
so
mean,
what
like,
about
I am
logos?
not on
Yeah,
that
that
end of
like our big Pax 8
yeah.
logo, right? Like
It
that
says
is
$1 million,
a
$200,000.
right,
Yeah.
right. Now we know the quantification of that. So what about logos, Travis? What do you think about, since I don't know if this is covered in a later bullet, but what about logos? What
No,
about
no.
figuring out you're with
Well,
Boeing?
it's perfect because it goes exactly to kind of my MO. And my backpack, I have a black nomadic backpack. It's got tons of pockets, but it's basic. It looks like every other backpack. My luggage tag on there is stuffed inside so that you've got to like remove it to see who I
Yeah.
am, where I live,
Yeah.
my business card. Um, the when I am traveling, I'm usually traveling like you guys usually see me at conferences, so I'm in conference mode. I got the suit on, but
Yeah.
but yeah, usually I'm just like pretty basic. I got my shirt, my shoes on, basic pants, something comfortable.
I'm glad we covered
Because
pants, Travis. I was getting a little nervous there for
That's
a second as we had that pause, but I'm good. Glad you travel in
hey, I
Most of
pants.
the
like to
We've
be
time.
upgraded.
comfortable. Okay, I like to be comfortable. All right, I'll leave it at that.
No judgment here. No judgment here. Okay. What's our next bullet point? Let's
So,
keep this train moving along. I'm sorry, Travis. I cut you off.
well, no, I
Oh,
was going to
no,
say
too bad.
probably privacy screen right there. Boom. So you were asking, like Dom had nailed that. Like you don't know who's around you, and so
Well, let's
that
go back and talk
visual,
about privacy screen. We'll come back to these other two here in a minute, but
yeah.
let's talk about that. So, why a privacy screen? Dom started it with the people are just going to look over your shoulder and get information. But
Hmm.
do you advocate that? And actually, I'd ask the audience, how many of you have privacy screens on your cell phone? Right, my cell phone has a privacy screen. Kat made me. That's why I have my auditor here. That's she's in the room. Of course we do. But what about that inadvertent exposure of information aspect of this and in that? So do you have privacy screens already, Travis, on your devices,
Certainly,
phone?
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, always keep that on in meetings. I mean, like nobody wants anyone creeping on their activities. No matter what you're doing, whether you're, just writing an email to someone. It's again, it's this is. I don't want to give away any more information then they can already have, because I'm already giving away a lot of information. Like you pointed out, Matt, is, I'm, probably an American. I am probably an executive of some sort. Which already gives out who I am, what I might be doing. So limiting that with a privacy screen on your phone or your laptop, 100%.
So, Dom, let's ask you this. Would that be something the organization should pay for?
It's a good question. I think it's valuable.
You get a laptop, right?
I mean, yeah,
so
may as well. I think on
It should
corporate
be your
devices,
standard
yeah,
kit.
it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's maybe a
Yeah.
takeaway here, right? For anybody listening, is do you set your users up for success? Right?
Can we clip
Facebook
this
made
so I
the
can send it to
backpack.
Rex and ask for a budget for?
Yeah, I was hoping to help you with that, Dom. This was budget approval methodology. You heard it here first. Travis Woods agrees. We need to get these things paid for.
Yeah, Rex,
But
it shall be
but
done.
maybe there's a discussion on, as the risk increases, the chances that you do that is higher. Like, should Ryan Walsh have privacy screens? Yeah, he has lots of strategy and things that might be valuable or might be meaningful. And so, comparatively speaking, I think one takeaway so far has been logos. Be careful of how you manage logos for those important people that are going to be targeted. And second is being able to provide them with the tools to be successful. If you buy a laptop, spend the extra $20 for a screen filter. If you're giving out phones and you're going to pay for swag anyway, get a privacy screen. Do things that can take you down that path a little bit that'll help your users be successful in their own right by accident, right? And I think those are one of the key points there. So awesome.
Yeah.
The next bullet point was VPNs. Okay, why, Travis? Help me explain this whole VPN thing. We'll go back a second.
Yeah. I mean, getting back to that MO of like, I don't exist here. Like, I don't want anyone on that network to know that I'm on it. So we know that, evil twin, man in the middle. I mean, my son, I think I was showing this a little earlier. My son brought, he's got one of these little M5 sticks that can generate wireless hotspot that looks just like a legitimate one, captures some Google credentials, and Bob's your uncle. He's got you. So pwned by a 15-year-old. So
yeah, and so the VPN, one of the things that you call out there, Dom, and we talked about this during my event that I won't name now because of asks by certain departments, let's say. But with that one time that I was pwned on a wireless network, VPN wouldn't have mattered in that case, right? This was some native network communication protocols that were happening, without getting too much into it, that happened outside the VPN. But why the VPN? Explain it for people. ELI 5. Why the VPN? What does it do for you in the wild there, Dom?
Well, we all know what a VPN is, right? It's
virtual private network.
Yep. Oh, fair. Yeah, acronym. It's a virtual private network, which, if you want to equate that to a physical sense, it's a tunnel, right? You're building a tunnel, so everything else happening in that space is happening, but everything you're doing is in that tunnel. So all we see is that tunnel. For a network administrator or a network snooper, it also, depending on the product, if you're using a more modern VPN or SASE type product, it provides some validation that connection is secure, because it's looking for the right certificates, and there is no concept of bypassing a cert error. If it doesn't get what it expects, it does not complete a handshake, right? So it adds a whole lot of different layers. But you're right, it's really meant to protect traffic in transit, and it's not meant to protect the machine itself. That's not what it's for.
Yeah, but there are some impacts that I don't want to miss on this for the finer points, which are, when we start thinking about the thing you brought up with SASE, right, or Secure Access Service Edge, or SSE, Secure Service Edge, if you want to go into the acronyms of it, you're now saying, I'm going to change the direction of this impact, right? Think of it this way. Initial VPN use is to encapsulate and protect the information that's flowing over it. Great, slam dunk, got you, very valuable. What if, in conjunction with that, you also said the only way to access data, even if you are granted a token, even if you have an OAuth token, you have a cookie, you can sign in, it must be coming from this IP point and this VPN edge at the SSE. You now are saying, or Secure Service Edge, you're now saying that the VPN is going to protect you in the way you did say from an OPSEC perspective. But even if I get pwned on that machine and someone tries to take that somewhere, it's also ineffective because it is not coming from behind that same VPN. which is
Right.
important when you start thinking about that impact of that. Um, One of the things
Yeah.
that we just maybe ought to tackle here. Can we bring up a comment from Caroline on this real quick and just take a little quick break into this comment? She says, "Have you gents spoke about the ubiquitous QR codes lurking in airports and restaurants?" Girl, you are pulling at
Oh,
my heartstrings.
great.
You
Yeah,
are
no,
pulling
that's a
at my
great
heartstrings. Travis, what are your thoughts, brother, on this whole thing? Let's talk about it. You know my feelings on the matter.
Yeah, no, QR codes, they are ubiquitous and they're being used for almost everything from, from menu item,
Menu,
ordering things on an
yeah.
item, yeah, to registering for, access into a country. So I know as I enter Colombia, as there is a place where if you haven't done it already, you scan the big QR code there to put in
Yep.
all of your passport information, all the information about your arrival and departure city,
Oh.
which is some pretty sensitive information. So, yeah, I think, yeah, being weary of QR codes that's
Well,
another,
QR
yeah,
codes, but really any link shortened link, any link that is going to take you somewhere at
NFC
all. I mean,
tags are now a
yeah,
thing.
yeah, there's so
hmm
many places for this to happen. And what's interesting is like the QR code makes it obfuscated of where you're going. But then I use a
hmm
QR code with a link shortener, which further
hmm
Right.
obfuscates where you're going. And then when you get there, I'm looking, are you a Safari? Are you coming from a UA or user agent string of Windows? Are you coming from a user agent string of Chrome? And then I'm saying, well, let's send you an answer based on which user agent string you're using. Then my point would be I could walk through that airport with a QR code, slap it over that one, and ultimately pivot you to that destination, just like your son did, but now remotely, right? I'm now
hmm
doing it where I'm redirecting you. And so it doesn't just stop at QR codes. They're a great way to talk about this, but I've been called to
hmm
carpet about this whole hatred of QR codes a couple times. And my real challenge is actually at the bottom level of link shortening. And where am I going to wind up? I don't have any ability to predict where I'm going until I've detonated the payload at the next step, right? And that's a
yeah.
real problem. So she's
Last
definitely
year's
called out a
Super
point here.
Bowl, and speaking of MSP Madman, would like to know who Travis has for the Super Bowl. But at last year's Super
And
Bowl, they
that's
put up a
half
QR
like West
code.
Coast, maybe.
Yeah, you know, I think he knows you and he's poking. But
You might
the
be.
at last year's Super Bowl, I don't remember which advertiser it was. One of the advertisers had a QR code, and it was a free QR code service. It was literally like QRC.ode or something as a link shortener. Uh, and it's 30-second Super Bowl commercials, some ridiculous like $15 million, and they used a free link shortener. But I digress. And it was compromised, right? So the entire audience of the Super Bowl was now scanning a QR code for a service that was very promptly compromised as soon as one of those audience members figured out that it was vulnerable. It's the craziest QR code story. It's my favorite one to reference.
Oof.
Yeah,
Well,
slam
and
dunk.
again,
And
it's go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah,
After
I
you,
was just gonna
doctor.
say,
Doctor.
yeah, no, doctor, please. Yeah, doctor. Yeah. But no, it goes back to the, just trying to understand, like, okay, what do I need to do this? Like, what is the risk I'm taking on? Like, is this something I really need? Like, do I need to, like, can I just get a paper menu? Like, some of these things you
Well,
can kind of choose or opt out of.
but you
And
just actually, this is a triggered comment from Caroline Goals, right? She actually added on and said, I refuse to use them, and was called a Karen for doing so, for
Oh,
asking for a menu, right? To your extent. And I think
how
that's the
dare they
trade-off
call
that it's
Caroline a
worth, and
Karen?
it is the burden of knowledge, right?
mhm.
Unfortunately. And I would say I would rather be called that than be pwned by Bad Matt. There's some Bad Matt out there lurking in some alternate universe that didn't go
There
down this like
definitely
protect
is.
people
But he has
path.
hair
Like
on
that's
his
where I'm
head
going.
and not on his
Yeah,
face,
he's like
which
not
is
bald here and has no
yeah.
beard and his
But
eyes
it's
are straight or
equally as
something.
tall. It's
Yeah,
equally as
yeah,
tall
equal.
for every
Yeah, yeah,
age. The
exactly. It's
beard
like it's
comes
this
down
tall,
and
this really tall
the
fur
hair goes
like
up.
thing. I'm rocking in that version. Yeah,
We need
100%.
AI to make that
Um,
for us.
I wanted to add this in because Henry Tim brought up a really awesome point. Can we go ahead and bring that up on screen, please? He said, "Do you use virtual credit cards, look cards,
Ooh.
lock credit cards down when you're traveling or otherwise?" And it's such a salient point of even then not trying to leave breadcrumbs and to add control over data being accessed. What about you, Travis? Are you doing stuff like that? Do you have ephemeral cards?
So, no, that is not. I haven't gone that far, but
Attack
um,
Travis with non-ephemeral card gathering.
that's
Got
it.
it.
I know,
Okay.
right? I'm like, now I'm like, what OPSEC am I giving up right now? Like, you
Right, exactly that. No worries. I'm just noting for my own purposes. Don't worry.
But that's a really great point, because usually when I'm paying, I will pay with Apple Pay,
Which does
or
actually do that by its
That does,
nature,
yeah.
right? Like that's the
it
very definition
obfuscates
of
and yeah.
a near field communication methodology. So
And also when I'm paying, I usually will do tap instead of scan, because
yep,
that's yet
100%.
another way that we can, ensure that we're not being skimmed, or
For
prevent it,
anybody
I
who
should say.
doesn't know, when you're using tap-based transactions, they are basically cryptographic signed responses that are saying, "Yep, I'm this device. Yes, that is this transaction." Without getting deep into like the actual technical how that's playing out in the credit card networks, it doesn't expose the card number in a way that's being able to be intercepted during that transaction.
Well, in the context too of Google Pay or Apple Wallet, both of those services do issue a virtual card number, but you also need to do your face or your fingerprint or whatever dance you have on your phone for
Yep.
that to even
Mhm.
activate. Right? So there
Ooh,
is a
there's a
lot of
dance
value in
method.
that.
I want to do the dance method. I could do like Dance Revolution ones or something to get my phone to open. That'd be fun in an airport.
I mean, we can call up Tim and see if he can put in the next iPhone.
I'm doing it. We're gonna put that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Travis, let's
Matt
get
will
back to
only
the stuff from
his phone will only unlock with a dab. I can
yeah,
see
and now that I've got
that.
the busted with a right-handed dab. I digress. Let's get back to the list. What else did you have on your list,
Yes.
Travis? Let's keep going through these for people.
Back to the list. So I think the next thing that popped up there was had to do with communications, and so typically I'm going to use Signal. If I'm moving
Yeah.
around on kind of a unfamiliar territory, things like that, I'm going to use Signal, preferably.
Yep.
There are, of course, I was on the phone with someone today who tracks people professionally for a living, and he's like, "Yeah, we can still hit you on Signal." I'm like, "Okay,"
Yeah,
but
well,
at
you
least to
can
make
get in
it
the
harder.
groups, right? Yeah, they do. But also the other thing about it is the nature of ephemeral communications. But there was one point on there that you spoke towards, and before we come back to it, that was a test we can do for the audience. Anybody out there, I want you to follow along with me and just look right now. You too, Travis. Where's your cell phone
I'm
right
doing
now?
it.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Where's your cell phone? Is it face
In my
up or
pocket.
face down? Is it face up or face down right now?
Face up.
It's face down.
It's
And I
in
think
my
that's a
pocket.
question you can ask yourself as a great test. Are you a face down cell phone person or a face up cell phone person? If you're face down, you're likely a security person with some degree of understanding of OPSEC, because it doesn't allow even the flashes and the things to pop up to be something that can also be given. Right. And so I not only advocate locking your phone when you put it down, I also advocate putting it face down when you put it down to
Well,
avoid
now,
pop up intelligence, things to that nature, unless you've really controlled
well,
that.
my
Go ahead, Dom.
phone censors the notification like it's not
Right.
even just company policy. Like I set it so it will not show the content. Now you can get what app it
Mhm.
came from, but you cannot read any of the notifications without unlocking it.
And that's Dom. Yeah, and I are on the same page on that, because I've done the same, so that even if my phone is locked or somebody picks it up and sees, they may see I have a whole bunch of messages, but they won't see who they're from or the content of those messages. And
Right.
and that's true for the email alerts, everything else. Like
Yeah.
I don't want any information to be shown on the screen just by casually walking by.
Right. We did miss a
Yeah.
bullet
Yeah.
point because the last graphic
Go
flashed a
ahead.
little quick.
Was that
So
network? Was that about network
it
stuff?
was just keep your
Bluetooth
phone
and
and its
Wi-Fi.
identity secure by turning off AirDrop. We missed it on the
Dude.
last graphic. We
Oh,
got to
this one
cover that.
triggers me so hard. So I was in Australia. This was 491 days ago. Ask me how I know. But no, I
Who's
was in
counting?
Australia, and I'm that OCD. I actually have Duolingo. I started at that time, so I have like this permanent counter.
Oh,
Anyways, but I was
okay.
I was in Australia on this
Speaking
airplane,
Australian.
and it was right after the video of the pilot. Remember the audio video of the pilot saying, "I'm a U.S. pilot. I'm going to turn this plane around if people don't stop sending me
Oh
blank
yeah.
pics." And blank was not a
Yeah.
good word, right? And so he's like, "If you don't stop, seriously." And the first thought I had in my mind was like, why do you even have AirDrop on? And I'll come back to that answer in a minute, right? And this is a problem that's not ours to solve, but a problem for Secure by Default to solve. That said, what's funny is what got transmitted over the airport. And Kat and I were sitting next to each other, and this woman across the aisle starts kind of making a scene, and she brings the stewardess back, and the stewardess comes and says, "What's going on?" And I overhear her say there was a bomb threat, that she had received a bomb threat. And what it was a pop-up graphic had come up and said, "Do you want this graphic?" Yes, that's airdrop. And the graphic popped up and said, "We're going to blow this plane up." And it was a general image of a threat. Somebody saying, "I'm going to blow the plane up you're on right now." And so what's interesting is the airdrop settings had tons of people's phones going off with this, right? And it came to this thought process of, first off, the plane took off. Like in the United States, there's zero chance that plane takes off, right? Like near zero. The pilot sits around for half an hour.
Let's go.
Yeah. They bring up security people. They leave the plane and they're like, "We're taking off. If everybody please turn off their phones." What do you say? Like including the threat actor with the bomb? Like, please follow the rules, right? But then they're just like, "We're taking off, boys." And they just did. And they have way more FAFO in Australia than we do. We would have been much different about it. But the thought comes up, and I put a post up that said, "Why is it even on?" And I started tracking it, Dom. Like every time I get on a flight now, I open up a picture and try to airdrop it. How many do you think I catch on a 100-person flight every time, at least?
At least 3.
60.
It's at least the full screen full, and I don't know how many go beyond that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's huge. And the point is, it's default that way. We aren't set up for success. We don't have them set where they're automatically airdrop off unless only contacts. Why would a company do that, Travis? Why do you think Apple made it to where it's on by default? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's because, and look, from the technology company's perspective, they're like, we've got this great new technology where you can send files from one iPhone to another. Like, who wouldn't want to use that? Like, it's almost like the marketing department was in charge of security. So, no shade on marketing, please. I have plenty of marketing friends.
No, never, not from me or Dom.
No, like again, love my marketing people. But yeah, I think that's, and that's probably the impetus of like why it's on by default. I know now that like I actually did that recently, because every time we travel with my family, my kids would send pictures of our cat to to random strangers, again, just to see who would click on that. And I will say
great clarification from Grant too. I'm sorry, go ahead, Travis. I apologize.
Oh no, I was just going to say that those numbers, I've seen those numbers decrease though on that test,
which is part of Grant's point. He said in the newer versions of the Apple iOS updates, it's set to contacts only by default. And my point of bringing this up is you're starting to see companies understand the risk they carry by the settings they set. And even though they did that setting to make it easy to airdrop grandma's pictures to grandma's friends at the nursing home, like I don't mean that diminutively. I love the nursing home. They're fantastic, great pictures. But the point is that they make it easy for the lowest common denominator to use something and don't have consideration of what those security impacts are, which means you have to. And I think that's the point. Bluetooth's on by default. Why do I need it? Why do I have to move these things forward? Why would Wi-Fi automatically do it? I think I have another point that wasn't talked about too that I like to attack. I guarantee you if I put United Wi-Fi, Delta Wi-Fi, UnitedWiFi.com, United_Wi-Fi on a hotspot, I'm going to get almost everyone's device right now. If I added Courtyard, Marriott, and Hilton HH Honors Wi-Fi to that, I probably get 80% of people. And the reason is you're set by default to reconnect. I don't.
Starbucks,
my device is Marriott. I have to join Marriott every time. So what about that, Travis? Is that a constant point? Like, is the memory of the things you do to make it convenient an attack surface in your mind?
Yeah, that's an important one. I think as when I'm connecting to Wi-Fi, especially in an airport, on the ground, sure, I'm going to use my hotspot 9 times out of 10. Unless I'm just in one of those terminals that's also a tornado shelter, I'm going to use my hotspot because I know where I'm connecting to. I know my the pipe in, the pipe out. But on those cases where you do have to connect to a hotel Wi-Fi or something like that, turning off auto connect is crucial, because if you are traveling, say, like, at a restaurant and suddenly Marriott pops up, that should give you pause.
It's bad Matt, not real good Matt. Not
it's
good
bad Matt, that guy again. Yes, exactly. So so turning off those auto connect on those things is really important.
Yeah, because the main point is if I stand up a Marriott Wi-Fi, you're going to join it, and you're going to join it in your backpack. and you're going to join it and give me SIGINTs or signal intelligence that I can use potentially about the products you use. Like I'll see that callback and beacon to Sentinel-1. I'll have things that I can do that give me information about what things I need to do to win this fight, right? What if I could suddenly filter any Sentinel-1 signals from the console, but allow the rest of the traffic? What if I wanted to hide the fact that the Sentinel-1 was going off 12, 15 times on this endpoint? I just never let the telemetry get there, right? I have things that I can do that allow me access and control. So yeah, I just can't overstate that one. It's so inconvenient to not remember a Wi-Fi, but boy, howdy, it is valuable when it comes to that attack surface from that side of it.
Yeah.
What else do we have that we haven't covered? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say it just comes back to like just not existing. It's just how do I move through this world with very little imprint, leaving as few breadcrumbs as possible.
Yeah, very good. I think Positive Energy just popped in with a comment too. It says just Microsoft. They make you work to protect yourself instead of rolling it out configured for your safety. It's not just Microsoft. It's everybody. It's everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And I think to that point. And then Grant also popped up with talking about the digital protections and screen protectors, which we did kind of cover, Grant, of saying like you need to be protecting yourself in a public space. You need to have screen protectors. But even screen protectors don't stop me from being right behind you. Like I've got an eye that always seems to catch that center of the chair. I don't know why, but I can see what's on your phone in front of you. I can see what you're looking at. I can still see it. And that's right behind you, right? Because it's not reflective. So it does come back to being situationally aware. Even if you have protections, even if you have those things, what are the types of things you don't work on when you're sitting next to me on a plane? Like I think it was a couple of the pictures I got was like full financials for a massive hospital, right? We're on the screen for something. I had to go, hey, whoa, blur that out. Like, don't put that on the lock it up screen. Like, please be OPSEC.
Right.
Like, I've had to fix my own OPSEC there. So, yeah. Any thoughts on that? Or, I mean, we kind of beat that to death a little bit, but.
No, I mean, that's, no, it matters. And especially those airplane seats have just enough gap where you get a nice view of like what's watching.
Totally,
I don't know how many movies I've watched in someone else's lap. Okay. Like it's.
You're like, man, I really want to watch that movie. That is awesome. What is that one called? Hey, I've been looking over your shoulder for half an hour.
Yeah.
Or standing in line at a coffee shop, right? That person that's uncomfortably close to you. It's the same thing as not cyber, like it's just physical security at that point. Don't let anyone be uncomfortably close to you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got on the list of goodie bags that we've missed here? Let's take a look.
Let's see. We covered turn off network sharing and Bluetooth with don't memorize Wi-Fi. Don't leave your phone on the table.
Yeah, the phone on the table is like that's one that's just like that's just begging to be like swiped. I've been in too many places where I've seen that. I mean, here even in San Francisco, that's a common occurrence. It's like because here's the other thing is like what happens when you're in another country and you don't have your phone? Like that's a big one.
Oh,
that is
a
big one. Because you've got boarding passes, you've got messaging to you're
you've got your check into the Colombian government, you've got your QR code image, you've got your filing paperwork, like everything's on that phone at this stage, right? Like, 100%. So losing that device,
the whole the idea the bike messenger rides by and grabs your phone off the table while you're sitting right there, like it's a real thing.
Right.
I also want to call a point, and maybe I'm giving up my OPSEC here. There is a argument for separation of church and state. And what I mean by that is having a device or a set of devices that work towards an identity and having another set of those that work towards another identity. And what I mean by that is I don't necessarily want the Matt Lee personal attack surface to equal the Matt Lee Pax8 attack surface. And so for that reason, I have a Pax8 laptop and I have a Matt laptop. I have a Pax8 cell phone that I use for those things, and I have a Matt cell phone. And those things allow me to have another phone in your case, right, Travis, where those identities do cross, that allows me to have a backup of some of those important documents. It allows me to have a segmentation and a separation of what is on each of those devices from a risk perspective of compromisation. If someone takes my device for Pax8, do they actually have Matt Lee's personal stuff, or do they have some created identity to support that Pax8 identity? And I won't get too deep into it. Dom and I have already had some real long conversations about my strategies there. But definitely there is a value of having some cold device that holds a different identity of yours, that is in a space that would not be grabbable in that way, that allows you another kind of tear off identity, if you will. And maybe I've said
Yeah.
too much, but anyways.
Tear off identity.
I mean,
Got
anyone who's
extra
had dinner with
passport
me
in there
knows when
too,
you
like
travel.
your dip and your traveler. And,
Yeah, a little
know.
pistol, like a little 45 too. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
that. Maybe that's too much.
Little baby one.
No, but you're right.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, like, yeah, that gets back to like, what's your disaster plan too?
Sure.
That's
What's the next
I think
steps?
that's an area. Yeah, exactly. What are the next steps in there? And that's on this last trip. That was something that I was kind of pondering. Like I don't think I have that one nailed
Do you
down
think
just
you're
yet.
underprepared? Do you think you're underprepared for that statement? Like genuinely, I think that is probably the weakest for all of us. I don't have anything
Yeah.
other than some meaningful thoughts of what I'd do next. I haven't planned it out or done any of those things.
Right. I've never done a test. Like, hey, can I really get by without my primary phone? Like, oh no, that's too hard. Like, I haven't tried that
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
But
What would I
need to
do?
get
How many
that in my
passkeys
head.
are stored there? What
Mhm.
identities can I not get back if I'm out on the road?
Mhm.
There's a lot of
Right.
those kind of things that come into mind, or even more. I mean, when you start heading down that passkey road, things of that
Well,
nature.
and we're all using multiple devices to, and multiple factors to authorize ourselves into our password managers, even into our email accounts, things like that. So, okay, if let's say, my two devices, my laptop and my phone are gone, how do I get back? What is my
Yeah.
next, what is that next step? So, yeah, I think that's something that we should all kind of ponder
Do I
and
need
realize,
a
like,
break
okay,
glass for Matt? Like, do you make a deal with Dom and go, hey, Dom, I need you to have a break glass Matt account. Like, this is all my security tokens, my validations. Like, keep this somewhere and make sure it's me when I ask for this, if you don't mind. Like, is
Yeah,
that a
right.
real
yeah.
statement? Like, I know we've delved a little bit off
I mean,
topic.
it could be.
It could be. You
I mean,
absolutely
I
can
trust
see that
Dom with
playing
it.
out.
Like, yeah, like no,
Yeah, Dom
like,
wouldn't do anything
that
nefarious.
face,
Yeah,
like,
here's
come
all my
on, like,
SSH keys, bro. Enjoy. Don't
Yeah.
use this one; it'll get you arrested by the FBI. It's not the right one to use. I see that Kristen's on. She says, "I spy Cat in the Matt Lee full screen." So if we want to pop back to that, I want to actually point out this is not Cat. This is actually the person that's going to steal your badge from you at Beyond. And I just wanted to lay that out there, Kristen, because you have too many of mine. Kat's going to help me in stealing one from you. I just wanted to point that out. Anyways, I digress. One more thing Henry kicked in and said, think about the capabilities of somebody next to you with an OMG cable, a pineapple, Wi-Fi deauth, flipper, like just the proliferation of the ease of access of these types of things. And it goes hand in hand. Prince Harry just won a lawsuit in Great Britain over this, right? So I don't know if y'all saw this, but from 1996 to 2010, there was a newspaper that just got proven in court and apologized out of court for hacking people's devices to gather information for news stories. I just want to let that sink in as to how prevalent and how easy this is and what that means for which persona might actually be attacking you. And I'm not trying to be a fear monger. I'm not trying to drive that. I'm just saying the ease of access is smaller, which means that if there's a will, there's a way. And any thoughts on that for who your actors might be by comparison to from either of you?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I think of more like concentration. And like if there is a high concentration of people who are outside of their regular their regular operation, then that's a good place to hunt because they're unfamiliar with the territory, they're unfamiliar with the way things are done. That's a great place to hunt. So it's kind of like going through a city that has just really crowded, and you're like, what are you looking for? Pickpockets, of course. This is a great place for pickpockets, and I think those kind of places are where I would be more concerned with that kind of attack, things like that. I want to point out, like, getting back to OPSEC, your boarding pass can have some significant information on it. So
absolutely.
just that, what,
my real
7-digit
name's
code?
on that stupid thing, right? Like you could actually get my real name out of that boarding pass. Like that's a problem. Yeah, that's a
But
problem.
with that record locator and your real name, I just listened to a darknet diary of
So good.
someone who was able to get passport information and birth date and some really critical information of a former PM in Australia, just because he posted on his boarding pass on social media. So
Oh, well, that's the last call out, is like, know before you post. Dom, you put this graphic up in our kids, right? With the little meme of the know before you go. Like,
that's
know
exactly
before you
what
post.
that meme looked like. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Perhaps a different context, but or even like if you're doing the selfie thing at the show, like what's behind you, right? What's next to you?
You and I spent 20 minutes planning OPSEC for that student room because we had to look
We
behind
did,
us to see if
for
there
the
was any kids'
classroom.
pictures
Yeah.
or names or homework
Yeah.
assignment or teacher name or school location. And still didn't plan on the PA popping up and saying exactly where we were, but it happens.
Well,
it happens.
what are you gonna do?
Well, we're out of time. We're overtime now, y'all. Travis, dang it. I just love the whole topic and having you here. Close us out with any of your final thoughts, brother. Wrap it up. Give me a minute of the Travis thoughts.
No, I mean, look, it's first of all, it has been an absolute pleasure to be with you guys. I love you guys so much, and can't wait till we're all back together again. But yeah, this is something that needs to be in the front of our minds. Not just when we're traveling, but when we leave our house. You don't have to go far. You don't have to carry your passport with you to be aware of the breadcrumbs and the information that you're just giving out to the world. And it's
and you don't do that on the street, right? If you're walking down the street as a person, I have real hard times figuring out who you are, even if you live 3 blocks from me. But I can get that information from you digitally that is way more powerful, way more valuable, right? I can even look at which Wi-Fi's you're looking for and then go on to what is the Wiggle and figure out where you probably live, right? I actually found a person through Wiggle, so if you don't know Wiggle, go look at Wiggle. It's a cool project. But anyways, thanks for being here, Travis. I love you. And just try to be more OPSEC out there, y'all. Dom, let's close us out, buddy. Love you, Travis.
Trav, thanks for joining us. Guys. Yeah, that's our show. OPSEC is critical, and a lot of us don't spend enough time thinking about OPSEC, what we say, what we share, what we do, how we act. With that in mind, that is our show for the week. Thanks so much for joining us. Next week, we have a really exciting show. Scott Augenbaum is going to be joining us. A lot of you know him. We're really excited to have conversations with him. If you don't know him, he's a former FBI agent, now a cybersecurity advocate, and a really damn smart one at that. So make sure you join us next Friday at 2 p.m. Mountain. We'll see you then.